What the fuck was that?
I mean, I knew that's what it was going to be. And yet I was still surprised by its terribleness.
Wow.
I'm tired.
Welcome to Podlander, Drunkcast, and Outlander.
I know, it doesn't feel good. That didn't feel good.
Full disclosure, as some of you may know, based on the little teeny tiny Instagram live we did this weekend, Julie and I were traveling on Sunday, and all of yesterday, just making out in the back seat of a Volvo. I don't know,
like
it
you
wasn't
do.
a Volvo, and there wasn't any making out, but it was still really fun. So we are recording this on a weekday afternoon. So if anybody if anybody besides Julie, who had today off, seems a little scattered, it's because Janine and I are bouncing between tasks, or at least I am. It's just me. They're going to be fine.
Sorry, I just woke up from a nap. That's what I just did. So
you know what? That's an activity.
And
You're bouncing between activities.
Jasper cuddled the fuck out of me. It was so good and so cute.
Sweet.
Maybe choose a different word though.
All right, so two of us are well rested and beloved by our animals. I am in the middle of my workday, and the cat jumped up on my desk as I was trying to put my laptop on it, because she's real pissed that we were out of town all weekend. So it's going to be a real one, but we are here for the first time together since the first episode of the season, which is great.
That's correct.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Literally.
Yeah. And we're talking about wolves. Hold on, I've got the exact
Hour of the
dealie.
Wolf.
Hour of the Wolf. The fourth
Outlander
episode.
season 6, episode 4.
This is an 80s songs reference. Yes.
No, that's Hungry Like the Wolf, dude.
Hungry like a wolf? Is that what?
Yeah.
Do
Hungry
we
like
feel
the wolf.
How do we feel hungry after this episode? Am I thirsty after this episode?
Well, someone is.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that's a form of hunger.
Julie, hold on. I know we're in other places, but we're recording this episode remotely. But I'm holding my hand up, and I'm pretending that this is your hand.
High five, baby. High
Because
five.
that was a good one. You'll understand, Janine. There is at least one guaranteed oh shit in this episode. Guaranteed.
Yes.
I would bet a lot of money on the fact that we're going to get no shit. You can't try to force it, though. You have to let it happen naturally.
I mean, I'm going to try to avoid it. No, I'm not.
You won't be able to. No,
that's the thing. That's why it's going to be natural.
There is one that will create it.
Okay. Okay. Let's do this. Let's
right.
let's find where the spirit of the wolf takes me.
I'd like to start real quick, if it's okay. I want to institute something because I got it in my critic brain. I think it's important because we often forget to do this. So, in addition to being titled "Hour of the Wolf," this episode was directed by Luke Schellhaus. Written by Luke Schellhaus and directed by Christiana Eberhahn Green, who also directed the next episode. So we have that to look forward to. Also, fun fact, one of the two directors of Allegiance is Steve Kornacki. Not that Steve Kornacki. Although it would be really cool if it was. I looked it up just to make sure. It's not that Steve Kornacki. It's not Maps Bay.
I was going to say it's not Naps Bay with nice ties, right?
No.
That's him.
Different
Right.
different Steve Kornacki.
Steve Kornacki. That's a very specific name.
I would like to say one other thing before we jump in. That is, I know I said this in my little end of thingy at the last episode, but I cannot believe I missed Corpse Who Sits Up and complains about her funeral. And I cannot believe I missed the matches. I was so ready to riff on, way to go, Brianna. You get to bring future technology to the past, and what you choose is a thing that makes it more likely that your house will burn down when that is the reason you traveled to the past in the first place. But still.
Corpse that sat up was God damn it. Fucking
It was very
fun.
fun.
Hijinks.
It was very funny.
You know what? Please
It was
tell me.
true
I haven't.
hijinks.
I haven't listened to the episode yet, so please tell me that you worked in some we kick and punch, and then we kick, and then we punch, and then we kick and...
Yeah,
I know
totally.
that I have
Disappointed. I can tell from the look on your face.
untrue. We did talk about that at one point because there was the sound of that music when Jamie came back from being with the Cherokee, and instead of let's kick and punch and fight, it's let's fucking psych.
Yeah. We did have that
Because-
moment.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because two ladies were grabbing at my balls.
They were
Yes.
fucking, yeah.
They
all over
were-
that.
Two ladies. That's a music theater joke.
I totally thought about the cabaret song too.
And I'm the only man. Yeah. Wow. How come
Yeah.
I've never made that joke when it's two girls, one moi? How come
One
we've
moi.
never done cabaret for Fergus?
I do not know. He would be an excellent
He
MC
would
though.
be. He would be an excellent MC for that. That is
Caesar
abs-
Domboy, call us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody
Call
better
us,
than Eddie.
call us from the
Redmayne.
Sen again when you
Yeah.
got that.
Yeah, just walk us
Yes,
around
yes.
Paris again.
Yeah,
I don't
that
know.
was
Yeah,
that
we'd
was
love
wonderful. Please do that again with that. That was
Okay,
Mhm.
so Hour of the Wolf.
Mhm.
Not to be confused with Hungry Like the Wolf or Season of the Witch.
This is gonna be great.
So, yeah, we open with a flashback of Ian's. By the way, we don't call him Ian anymore. He's a full-grown man.
That's true.
he's a man.
Everybody okay with that? Yeah,
Yeah,
Yes.
he's earned it. Yeah.
he's a grown man.
Yeah.
His
Slightly younger Ian or slightly older Ian.
older Ian.
And then
his,
we'll get to even older Ian. This is a
What if it-
Midnight Burger
what if it-
shout out. Midnight Burger,
what
now
if-
streaming as a part of the Bloody what network? Do you remember?
Fable and Folly.
Fable and Folly Network, starring Julie Starbird.
What if we call him Mian because he's medium Ian?
No.
It doesn't work. I think we just give him his name now.
We once tried to make Who Ian work.
We tried Who Ian.
Ian?
We tried Fuck Me Ian. I think.
Fuck me.
I think I'm just gonna call him Ian.
Oh,
Ian.
I mean, he stands
Yeah.
alone.
We could
He
also
doesn't
call
need it.
him Wolf's brother.
Yeah, because that's
Because
what's
as we
happening right
learn in
here.
this episode, he is both Scotch and Mohawk forever. Both.
Okay.
Porque no los dos. Okay, Julie, I want you to know it is really hard to say porque no los dos in a Scottish accent.
Yeah, I
You pulled
wouldn't
it.
know.
Yeah, you pulled
Because
it.
I don't try it.
Porque no los dos.
So Ian is being adopted into the Mohawk. We flash back to his actual adoption ceremony where the whole tribe comes together and welcomes him as one of their own. And it's fascinating. There's all this great detail stuff about how they give him the Mohawk and it's actually just pulling his hair out by the roots.
Oh wow, that is wow.
And how they do, how the Mohawk do the facial tattoos and all sorts of really cool kind of montage of the hot piss of becoming a Mohawk. And
Cool.
it's beautiful. And then it culminates in his naming ceremony. And his, I would be remiss if I didn't mention how good Rollo looks too. Just
Oh
saying.
yeah, good boy.
And that comes into play because the name that he is given is Wolf's brother. Because he and fucking Rollo just randomly are wandering around and this wolf just hangs out with him all the time.
That's awesome. Oh, that's
Right?
cute. That's kind of that's very heartwarming.
I wrote down the actual name. I don't know. Is it terrible if I attempt to pronounce it? Or, like, I don't even know.
Here's the thing. Julie and I decided, I'm going to give a little tiny bit of context and then say my opinion. Julie and I decided that, or realized, I guess, acknowledged the truth that was always real, which is that we are always funniest when we exist. When we
Well-
when we watch the episode shortly before we record. So even though we are sometimes watching these episodes separately, in particular because we also occasionally have advance access this season, we, as a result, don't have a ton of prep time before we record. So ordinarily what I would have done, and I wish we had done this in previous seasons, and we are doing it from now on, what I would have done is gone through and written down the phonetic pronunciation of all of the names that we encounter in this episode in the Mohawk and Cherokee languages. But I haven't. So what I would say is, if there is an English translation provided for now, let's use that. And I will make a point of doing that before the next episode. And from here on out, we will make a point of at least attempting with due diligence to pronounce those names correctly. Because the show has also clearly made a point of it. And I feel like while sometimes the show maybe doesn't make the effort that we wish it would, it's really important that they're doing this. And I want to try to reflect that in the way we cover it. So for now, we can say Emily and Wolf's brother and he who sings in the morning or whatever. I'm not remembering off the top of my head. And then those where there's no English translation, we'll just try our best.
Okay.
That work for you, Jill? Okay.
Yes. So Ian's new name, or Ian's Mohawk name, because he remains Ian, and that's kind of part of the whole point of this episode, is Wolf's brother. And there is a lovely young woman who is making lots of eyes at him, and he is returning the favor during this ceremony. So Ian's about to fall in love. Then we get the title card, and the title card is actually two wolves running through the forest together, which is really great given the theme of the entire episode and kind of how it breaks down. There's lots of twos and brother type things.
I know we just started, but like I'm kind of enthused that we're getting an Ian story. Like this guy's been put through a lot. You know, I'm excited to see some good things happen to him, or at least some explanation of like who he is and whatnot. I forgot I'm watching Outlander, so some bad things happen to him as well.
Yeah, some bad things.
Sorry.
Listener, what you couldn't see is that Janine said, I'm excited to see some good things happen to him, and Julie and I both went like,
or like, well, shruggy.
Well, there are good things that happen to him. There are. And life is a journey. Life is a series, as Kermit the Frog once said, life is a series of meetings and partings. That's a quote from the best movie of all time, A Muppet Christmas Carol. Anyway.
See, also about duality. Twos.
Yeah.
Deuces.
So, man, deuces, man. Deuces. This episode is all about deuces. Well,
deuces.
You know what?
This episode drops many a deuce.
Oh, no. But
it was right there.
But no deuce from my mouth yet. Hey!
Because no
till now.
Yet.
But out soon. Oh, deuce.
He
deuce.
was making an shit joke.
Oh, I know.
Deuce. Oh, deuce. You know, it's too bad, Janine, because the best joke is like the fourth one that you landed on. But by that point, we were so busy trying to explain the jokes you had already made that it got stepped on. So I want to recognize that it took you a while to get there. But when you got to oh, deuce, that is a very good joke. That's top tier, Janine.
Yeah.
That's just great. That's just great.
I'm still waking up from my nap. Okay. That's
all right.
Never mind. Anyway.
And then the actual episode opens with Claire and Jamie just waking up after doing it. We don't get to see the doing it. But they are waking up and obviously very happy and smug with them damn selves for just having gotten it on in that fucking bordello bedroom with that incredible wallpaper.
It's also very clearly morning sex, which I think does not get enough love on television. You really only see morning sex when a superhero's wife has already died and you're seeing the flashback, because then they're under the sheet and they're giggling and they're under the sheet and the light is coming through the sheet. Anyway.
Yeah.
As a way to, anyway, deal with they had morning sex and it was
anyway,
great.
They got it on in the morning.
Yeah. And
they have a little conversation here where Jamie brings up the phrase greased lightning. What was he talking about?
Greased lightning? Well, I think that we can assume that it was some pretty slippery sex.
Because she said something about lube afterwards.
Yes. So they were having this, which, I mean, we know a lot about Jamie. And one of the things that we know is that he's an expert bean flicker. So presumably Claire is always herself greased lightning when time comes for them to knock boots.
So Cardi B approved.
Cardi B approved.
Okay.
Wet ass pussy. Wet. That part's fine.
Like pushy.
Arse. Pushy. Then I was Sean Connery. I don't know what happened there. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So he says something about he's greased lightning, and she's like, "What?
Did I say that to you?"
And then he's like, "Yes, you've used the turn of phrase, so I just went ahead and applied it to myself." Neil Starboard style. He took a turn of phrase and applied it to himself.
And only himself.
And only himself. But Neil, no one calls you Johnny Dong.
Dude, that's coming back hard in this episode. I wrote like 2 jokes about it. Oh,
about
man.
Johnny Dong? Johnny Dong?
No, because nobody
Lightning.
calls him Johnny Dong.
Oh.
Nobody, I love you, Jamie, but nobody calls you Grease Lightning. Also, for those of you who are now going, go, 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 this obviously, we haven't even hit the Boston Tea Party yet, or maybe we have hit the Boston Tea Party, but only recently.
Just now, Grease, like last episode.
Right, okay. The movie Grease has not yet been made. I know
in
Claire's timeline confusing. Oh, I was talking about their timeline. But yes, also in Claire's timeline, John Travolta is not a thing yet.
Yeah. He might be just born when Claire touches that rock for the last time. Or maybe it's not the last time. I don't know.
Fun fact. Did you know that John Travolta adopted the dog that Jamie Lee Curtis was holding during the In Memoriam segment of the Oscars?
I saw that online today.
Yep. Very nice.
I saw that
Mac and Cheese
today.
Is the dog's name. Mac and Cheese, ladies and gentlemen.
Mac and Cheese.
Excellent
The dog's one name has an "and" in it.
Hyphenated. Mac and Cheese.
Mac and Cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
All right, so they're just chatting it out on the bed.
Yeah.
And we hear some chewing, some sneezing from downstairs. And for some reason, Outlander is really, really, really making a big deal to TV show of how allergic our red-coated Major McDonald is to cats. So obviously Major McDonald is like staying the night, and they're kind of bummed out. Like maybe he's been there a few days.
Major McDonald is stay in the night, stay in the night. Stay in the night.
Stay in the night.
This is going to be the John Travolta episode, apparently.
So we find out that he's been hanging out on the ridge, and Claire and Jamie are about ready for him to leave. And I guess today's the day that he's finally leaving. But something better happened with this fucking cat allergy, because they are milking the fuck out of it.
Well, I will say that that the Major Donald MacDonald, Donald son of Donald, as Ian reminds us later, and Adso rivalry is absolutely book fodder. It is much is made of it. It is a long-standing, nuanced relationship with many ups and downs.
Oh my God. Do they become friends?
No, well, no. I was exaggerating a little bit there, but there are a couple of very good Latsies if they decide to do them.
I hope so, because they're
important Latsies.
Yeah, they're setting them up.
Some plot related Latsies.
Okay, I'm looking forward to Adzo's plot. I can't wait to see how he fits into making something happen, because it's clear. It's clear that Adzo's world, but it's like a comic. No, anyway, Patty. Okay, so then we see Jamie come downstairs into the parlor and to talk to Fergus. Fergus looks a lot better. He looks a little bit happier. He doesn't look as sad. He's still a little bit haunted, but I think maybe that's just Fergus. And I guess, is Jamie sending him to sell whiskey?
I think
he's sending him. Yeah, he's sending him somewhere with Mr. Bug to sell some stuff.
Yeah, I think it's.
And I think it's
whiskey.
Because, and he tells him, he's like building him up a little bit about how he's a born salesman, and remember how you used to do this for me. Come on, you can do this. And Fergus is like, yeah, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to get me out of here so that I can fucking simmer down now. And Jamie's like, you're right. That is, you need some time away to get yourself together.
Which is also something that Jamie did, if you remember, with Roger after the great Mohawk misunderstanding of 17 bloody blah. He had him go and survey the land. Oh no, it was after the hanging. Had him go and survey the land.
Yes.
To like spend time by himself and get his head right. So Jamie, he knows the importance of sending a man into the wild to fend for himself.
Yep.
work out his feelings with some trees. I loved this scene a lot. I'm telling jokes, but I loved this scene kind of a lot. Part of it is that Cesar, damn boy, who knows what, it may just be really good acting. It might be instinctual, but it's something that I've rarely seen. You often see people depressed on television. You don't often see people sort of in the aftermath, kind of bouncing back, which means a lot to me as a person that, struggles with her mental health and deals with it on a daily basis. Sometimes you're in between. You're not great yet, but you're doing a lot better, and it's kind of like the equivalent of your whole self having sprained its ankle. Like it's tender. You feel kind of tender all over, and that I got a lot of that energy in this one scene.
Cesar is killing it this season. He's doing this season.
Really, really good. And when he says, "You've saved my life more times than I can count," and God, good job, Sammy. He does it. Our pal Sammy Heughan does a couple of really great scenes in this episode. When he says, "No, I've just balanced the scales." Oh, right in the feels. Boom.
Oh. So Fergus has a task and a job to do, and we're all led to believe he's on the mend. Good. Goodbye, Fergus. See you later, because we got another one of Jamie's sons to focus on a lot. That's interesting too that the Fergus episode was right before the Ian episode.
Yeah, I think
interesting.
So well, and we don't see Claire do her surrogate mom thing for Ian in this episode. But I would bet that we do, since we also see Claire in surrogate mom mode for both Fergus and Marsali in the previous episode. So
I know we'll see it.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's really nice that they're treating those relationships with the seriousness that they deserve. That it's not like all of a sudden Brianna is their only kid. No, they've got a brood.
They raised these fuckers.
They did.
Right? Yeah.
They did.
Yeah, they followed them all over the world, Like, that's important.
And Mayor McCheese or whatever has fucking showed up with all the guns. Sorry.
Major Donald McDonald, who is allergic.
But he was already
allergic.
He was already there, so the governor sent the guns, right? So the guns have showed up. And I guess Jamie asked for like 100 and they sent like 20. But they're all out there doing shooting practice to make sure that all the rifles are straight and everything, and it seems to be okay. There's this moment, and I have to ask whether or not this is addressed in the book.
Roger and Bree are the Roger thing. Yeah.
Yes. Roger and Bree are standing next to each other. You see them both kind of shoot at the same time, and Roger's like, "I hit it." And you see Bree kind of look at it, and she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, Did she do it and then tell him he didn't?
I don't think so.
Okay.
My impression is that so I'm not even sure that was intentional in the way that it played, because I had the same reaction, only I thought it was Brianna being like, yeah, so
kind of
like, yeah, congratulations, 1 out of 100. I'm really happy for you, Roger, but she didn't want to totally burst his bubble. But really, exactly. I think it's shortly on the heels of this, we get a scene between Brianna and Jamie where she's telling him about the Trail of Tears, which is another really well played scene. I feel like all the ingredients in this episode are really good, and it just kind of don't totally cohere.
It doesn't gel.
Yeah, it's the
like
balance is kind of off.
Like a charcuterie board that wasn't organized the right way. All the right stuff. It's all very fancy, but it just doesn't pair well together.
It just feels like there are things that they are trying to bring together that never meet.
Yeah.
It's like a charcuterie board, only one of the cheeses is great. Yeah. And one of the cheeses is a spreadable cheese, but there's no spreader. And the other cheeses are just like there, and they're not as good.
It's like no downing on this, but I don't like it on a charcuterie board. It's like an American basic cheddar, and it's like, I don't really. To me, that doesn't have a place on a charcuterie board.
The edges are starting to kind of change color.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's drying out.
I will, however, say that in the meat-centric half of the charcuterie board, the sausage is all still really hot.
Yes, the sausage is good, and we get to see some of it. Well, not really.
Yeah.
Fucking more dick on TV, please. Okay.
Please.
Let me get off my soapbox. All right, so they're having the target practice, and fucking Jamie can tell that something's wrong with Brianna. She seems really sad, and usually shooting guns is her favorite activity. And she's kind of like wandering away from the group, right?
Yeah. Also, Ian is visibly upset by McDonald sort of carelessly trots out a name that is not Chief. I'm double checking so that I'm not a regular old Major McDonald. Chief Bird who sings
in the morning.
Who he's talking about in a pretty condescending way. And Ian is visibly
like, why
offended.
is his name so? And
yeah. And then,
what was it that Ian said to him about the fucking sick burn?
He said after Ian corrects him, because he says bird who sings in the evening or something, right? Ian corrects him, and McDonald was like, well, something shitty about the names, mispronounced it. Ian goes, oh yeah, their names are really strange. Donald, son of Donald. Which is what Donald MacDonald means.
And you see everybody kind of stop and go, he's like, fair point. Sick burn.
That moment
Sick
was
burn,
great.
Ian. Sick burn,
Fuck
Ian.
yeah, dude. Good job.
But there are some comments about how the Indians maybe should just stick with their bows, and how they should be excited about the guns because it's obviously so superior to their primitive weaponry. And then obviously this is all still happening in the context of Ian butting heads with Jamie about the way that they should be interacting with the Mohawk and the Cherokee. So it's pretty fraught, and you can tell that Jamie, ever the interpersonal wizard, truly, that's not facetious.
He's
really
very
good at, he's really good at picking up on people's emotions and understanding the currents that are, which is why he knew that something was up with Ian in the last episode, right? Like, he's very good at picking up on when something's not quite right. So, like, me, a bumpkin, thought that Brianna was just like, yeah, Roger, sure, you hit the target once. Congratulations, big fella. Whereas Jamie, non-bumpkin, senses that it's something else. And it turns out, we'll get more about why Ian is upset later, but it turns out that he is able to talk to Brianna about why she's troubled.
And she lays it out more specifically for Jamie here. She explains the Trail of Tears to him. She gives him a timeline. And you can see that he is visibly shocked and disturbed and saddened. And she's like, there's nothing we can do to change it. This is going to happen no matter, who wins. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so, oh God. And Jamie, it really, to Sam Heughan's credit, this is a great reactive moment for him because it is very quiet and very subtle, but he is affected.
Yeah, you can see, it's like through the whole episode, coming on the heels of the last two, you can see all of the individual wrinkles that are complicating an already complicated situation for him, right? There's Ian's relationship to his own experience and to his life among the Mohawk and to his relationship to his former wife. That's complicating things based on how he sees it, because now Jamie sees, if Ian sees them as family, then they're also Jamie's family, so that's part of it. How the people that he's meeting who are loyalists are not all terrible people. A lot of them are also Scotsmen. Some of them presumably live on the ridge. That's complicated. And you can see all of these layers adding up. It's not as simple as I just have to stay a loyalist until I become a rebel and figure out when that point is. It's way more complicated than that. And Sam, I think, is doing a very good job of underlining that without ever hitting us over the head with it. You can see that if anybody on the planet is equipped to keep all of these balls in the air, it's Jamie Fraser, master ball juggler / bean flicker.
Bean flicker.
But he, even he can't be all things to all people at once. So, and this is an indication of that. He doesn't overplay it, but you can see he's like, Jesus Christ, Would someone just give me one cut and dry decision to make? Just one. Any one. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, I gotta go fuck my wife. You know?
I like that, and I this is... I do like the way that the story is handling the complicatedness of the American history with this as well, right? Approaching this and looking at how, sure, in our mythos of American history, we have this good guys versus bad guys situation, but it wasn't that. It was like we're both bad guys, right?
Just people.
Just people trying to fucking figure it out, and that still led to a lot of heartache and damage. I don't know. It's I'm enjoying the complicatedness of it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So now Jamie has this new information and he's got to figure it out for himself. And then the next thing we see is he and Ian taking the guns to the Cherokee, to the tribe nearby, Chief Bird Who Sings in the Mornings group, right? We've met Chief Bird Who Sings in the Morning before. I think they just called him Chief Bird, and for a while I thought they were saying Chief Bard, but it's Chief Bird.
Played by Glenn Gould, who's very good in this episode.
He's amazing. They get out of the wagon, and it takes them 30 minutes to unload all their personal weapons. Because you can't come on to their land with like a knife or a pistol. You got to put everything in a box, right? And it literally, like, you see Jamie get a knife out of his fucking shoe, and Ian's getting something out of his thing, and then Ian turns around and pulls out a hatchet and puts it in there, and it's like... I guess that really does come back to be truly important later, though.
It does.
So they spend a moment on it. They luxuriate upon it.
Beyond just the gag, because I find that to be a gag.
It is kind of a gag.
It's like overplayed,
but it's
almost.
More of a gag later.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. It's more of a gag, that not so much a gag. It's like a gag.
Okay.
So they get there.
You don't watch Drag Race. Sorry, it's a surprise.
Oh, yeah. Got it. I was like, I knew it was a Drag Race reference, but I was like, I don't know what that means.
Surprise. It's a surprise.
Okay.
Guess who's there?
His googly eye future wife?
No.
Oh.
His brother. And we've seen this actor before when Roger was with the Mohawk, and his character's name is Kaharaton, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He is the member of the Mohawk tribe that really was like the closest thing to Ian's brother.
Oh.
So they're very close. And in fact, they call each other false brother.
Oh, I like that.
Well,
in a bad way? In a scary way?
No,
in an
it's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
It's his presence. You can see Ian. John Bell's really good in this episode too. You can see him start to get tense when he looks at a horse and he notices that this decoration on the horse, which he says is Mohawk, not Cherokee, and then he sees Kaharaton. And is visibly upset. And this is the context in which we start to get the rest of the flashback. Because the episode opens with that really beautiful flashback of the ceremony, but now Ian is prepared to tell Jamie what he alluded to with Brianna in the previous season when he has his scary death tea.
Yeah.
And we get this extended flashback. I think it might... And Julie, feel free to disagree. I think it might be easiest, since from here on out in the episode we alternate between the past and the present. It might be easiest to just do Ian's flashback and then move on to what happens. Cool. Okay. So take us away, flashback queen.
So I think we see that Ian is, after he's seen Kaharaton and the other Mohawk, he's visibly shaken, and I think he ends up in a structure with Jamie where he's trying to like explain to him why he was so visibly surprised, upset, everything. And so that's the context for, here it is. He's going to lay it out. And so we go back to, let's see what it says. It's him learning the language and him having a hard time with it. And there's the girl that we saw in the beginning is trying to help him learn how to say words correctly, and they fall for each other.
Yeah.
And he even says this, he can't say her name correctly, so he just calls her Emily and says that she thinks it's hilarious.
We also, I think, meet her briefly when Ian actually goes to the Mohawk, because and certainly this is very clear in the book, she is part of the reason that he opts to stay, because he hits it off with this young woman. But we get to watch their connection sort of deepen, and there's a moment where he's walking with Caheraton, and Caheraton tells him that the women choose their partners in the Mohawk Nation. The women choose. And then he sort of taps at Ian's neck, where Ian is wearing this wolf stone that we see in this flashback that we see Emily give him. And that is an indication that they are married. There's also a cuff. A lot of very important, pivotal accessories in this episode. Yes. It's an accessories heavy episode.
So she has carved this wolf pendant for him out of river stone. And he's wearing it, so Caheraton's like, she chose you, dude. So you guys are together now. And then we go to their home, and we get a very, very hot sex scene with John Bell.
Yes. Very hot.
Oh.
Yes. Like, smoke-a-meter hot. Like, they are in true... She gives him this beautiful beaded bracelet, like a cuff bracelet, and we'll see it later. And she's like, this is to commemorate what I'm about to do to you when I rock your world. And then they just have a really hot sex scene. Beautiful. But there's also a deeper connection. Like, these two people really, really like each other, love each other. And you can feel that.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous.
Female gaze, friends. It's all female gaze. It's all about the experience. Which sometimes Outlander sex scenes are hot because they're like, look at the beautiful bodies of these hot people. But the best ones are all about sort of creating this experience and mood. Like the fireplace one, right? Yeah. Our old standby with the knife. That is an experience. That's what makes that hot. And this is like, it's so simple. There's no like, they're not diving into the Kama Sutra here. Like, it's very simple, but it's really hot. And they're both really great in it, too. You can tell, like Julie said, that they're connected very intimately. Intimately.
Then we get a little bit of a flash forward to her while she's pregnant with their child. And by this point, she's, I'm going to say, at least 5 or 6 months along, because she's visibly pregnant.
Yes.
And that's a long time for what's about to happen. So you see Ian lovingly stroking her belly, like all this stuff, and then all of a sudden, that one of the nights she's starting to experience a great deal of pain, and he wakes up and pulls the blankets back, and there's blood everywhere. Oh. And he starts freaking out and runs out of their home to gather the rest of everyone. And in one of the coolest fucking, I wish that this happened whenever I didn't feel good. All the aunties and meemaws come together and go get her and take her somewhere else where it's just women only. We're going to help her as much as we can, and we cannot have this energy of these men wandering around not being able to do anything about it in our faces. Get them out of here. And Ian is not great with it, right? He wants to be with her, and he can't. So is it Caheraton that tells him all you can do, or was it the kind of the medicine man guy that we see later? Was it him that told him all you can do is go into the woods and pray?
But the men basically say, listen, dude, this is not how we do it. Go, if you want to go help, go pray. And he does, and he prays to both his God, we'll say the Scottish God, right? The Christian God, and to the Mohawk gods. Which again, I think is a really nice touch. He specifically prays
to Mary too, which I thought was a nice touch.
Yes. And then the weirdest thing happens. He's sitting under this tree, and a statue of the Virgin Mary falls from the tree slowly in slow motion, and it hits him on top of his little braid and shatters.
Oh my god!
Little cameo in the episode for Mary the Falling Statue. Shout out, girl.
I am listening so intently about what's happening, and then I'm like, and then a statue shows up. What's going on, motherfucker?
Sorry, bro.
What was that doing there?
It's another really great scene for John Bell.
I forgot to tell one of the really good hot piss scenes in the montage leading up to this was the gathering of the tribe where they like hang out and sing and stuff.
Yeah.
So back up a little bit before the true sadness when he's really coming to be part of this Mohawk family.
You can tell,
and they're all hanging out.
Feels like he's a little embarrassed, but he feels like part of the family, and almost everyone in the room, you can tell that they also regard him. They're going out of their way to make him feel welcome and to encourage him to participate, which he does. There's a language barrier, so he can't tell the stories that he would normally tell. They
want him to tell the story of Galus.
Yeah, they want him to tell a story of the Bakra. And he can't. He says he doesn't have the words to tell it in Mohawk, and also they're very into the story, but it is a story of when Ian was sexually assaulted, so maybe not so much. But Emily makes them give him alcohol because she says he tells better stories when he's drunk.
When he's drunk, give it to him.
Give it to him. And then instead he sings. He sings a very lovely folk song. And John Bell has a lovely voice. It's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one face, and I think it's Emily's mother, there's something on her face where she's like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
She has reservations, let's say.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no.
Yeah. So
oh no.
Fast forward, the sad event is that Emily miscarries. It's terrible. But then as the flashback goes on, we see that she recovers and they're still working through it together and they love each other. And there's another beautiful moment down by the stream. And
he
kisses her.
We hear Ian recounting all of this. And then he tells us, by us, I mean Jamie. He tells Jamie, and we overhear it because we're eavesdropping through the power of television, that she got with child again because I was at least good at that part, which is a devastating piece of writing, where he's like, well, I'm good at knocking him up, apparently, and it's just everything else that I'm bad at. Heartbreaking. But it is also possible to read that line as Ian saying that he is good at fucking.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to hope for him that it's both, because this is a depressing turn of events.
No. Oh, no.
So she's by the river. He kisses her and then looks down, and you see blood in the water, and then she looks down and
starts screaming. It's really
she loses another one.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and here's where I want to shout out the woman who plays Emily, whose name is Morgan Holmstrom. I will talk about this more later, but the biggest bone I have to pick with this episode is they make some narrative decisions that sort of erase the whole point, and she is given pretty much less to do than anybody else, including the woman who plays her mother. And I don't know why. They treat her like a plot point, and it's too bad because the actress who plays her is great throughout, but in that scene especially, this primal sound that comes out of her mouth when she realizes that she's miscarrying and is incredibly upsetting. Like, I'm getting kind of visceral. It's visceral.
I didn't even see it, and I'm feeling it. Like I can feel like how devastating that moment must have been.
Shout out to Morgan Holmstrom. You killed it.
Thanks, Morgan.
You were very good at acting. You did. That was not a joke. Sorry. Now I feel like I underlined it, but in case that was not me making a joke about miscarriage, that was Morgan Holmstrom did an incredibly good job.
You did a very good job.
Yes, thank you.
Even the person who didn't watch it is getting chills from the description of what you did. So well done.
So then Emily's mom is like, "Come with me, Wolf's brother." And she takes him out into the woods with a pack and is like, "Here's food for 3 days, deuces. Get out."
What the fuck?
And he's like, "What?" And she's like, "That sometimes the spirit," and we believe, as in the Mohawk believe, we believe that the spirits fight each other, and it's only when one overcomes another that a woman can have a child. And your spirits aren't compatible. You got to go. She's got to get with somebody else in order to have a kid.
And she makes the distinction that he is still Mohawk. He is forever a part of their tribe, but his spirit is not Mohawk. As far as and it's obvious that Ian is both very offended by that and immediately starts to worry that it's true and that this is somehow his fault because he didn't stop being Ian Murray and become solely Wolf's brother. I think they do a really nice job of handling that. The doubt that Ian feels because he's a spiritual person and he's so invested in both his identity as a Scotsman and in his connection with the Mohawk. And John Bell, man.
He doesn't believe her. He doesn't believe. And does she actually tell him that Emily is with someone else, or does he just find that out when he goes back? Okay. So he doesn't believe Emily's mom that this was Emily's decision. So he goes back and there's Emily and she's in her home with Keharaton and they're together now.
Oh, ow.
I thought that was going to be it.
No, I wanted to say "oh deuce," but then I felt like I shouldn't use the joke. Oh my god. Oh shit, that's
boom, there it is. So
That's funny. I was actually thinking of a totally different moment, so maybe we'll get to.
Oh, we might get deuces.
Well, I already did an oh shit during the river scene because that was fucking devastating.
Oh yeah,
too.
You're right.
Yeah.
So that's two.
So this is an episode. Goodness.
Anyway, Emily has made her choice and she's going to stay with Keharaton, and it's very hard because you can tell that she is ripping her guts out. But she's like, "Please leave. Get out. Get out." She repeatedly tells him to leave.
Oh my god, how painful.
So he leaves. Goodbye. And we presume that's when he makes his way to Fraser's Ridge, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so this false brother thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So, so Ian is done with story time. Presumably he's also pretty drunk, but not as drunk as Scotchy Cameron. So, so Ian tells Jamie that he's not up to meeting with Chief Bird to hand over the guns because they're going to want to celebrate and he's not up to celebrate. And Jamie says, "No worries, dude, I got it." So we cut to the next day and Jamie meets another Scotsman who's also an Indian agent whose name is
Alexander Cameron.
Alexander Cameron, but everyone calls him Scotchy. And Scotchy says, "Oh, I've heard so much about you, bear killer. Let's hang out. Also, I heard a little rumor you've got some whiskey." And Jamie's like, "Yeah, I do. You want a wee dram?" And in true that moocher guy at a party fashion, he says, "Oh yeah, I'll have one," and then has 12. That's not an exaggeration. He has 12 drams, 12 wee drams of whiskey and is wasted.
What did he say?
And this is important
joke was,
for several reasons.
What's after 3? He goes, "I'll take 1 jam, 2 jam. What's after 3?" And Jamie goes, "In your case, 12.
Yeah. Obviously annoyed. And then Scotchy wants to talk to Jamie. He's making all kinds of in his cups decisions, which you get might be something of a pattern with this gentleman. And he tries to get Jamie in on illegally buying land from the First Nations, from the Cherokee, not from the Mohawk. They make a point of saying not from the Mohawk because the Mohawk would be very mad about it and that would be bad. And Jamie's like, "Listen, this is in defiance of all of the treaty that like you're gonna, no, I'm not gonna do this illegal thing and you shouldn't either." And Cameron's like, "Yeah, whatever. But now your nephew's Mohawk buddy is screwing up my plans because if he finds out, I'm gonna be in deep shit." And Jamie's like, yeah, you drunk, whatever, this sucks. I want to go home and fuck my wife.
I just need to go talk to Chief Birds. bird who sings in the morning. I don't need to be talking to you. Like, anyway. So Scotchy sucks. Be prepared. That comes back.
Oh, great.
Yes. Yeah. Then what's happening on the ridge?
More windows being installed?
What's going on at Fraser's Ridge? Well, I'll tell you what's going on.
Oh, what?
It's Claire in her surgery, just giving a few lessons on ether and how it works and experimenting on people.
Uh-oh.
So she's got Malva in here, she's got Lizzie in here, and she's got Josiah in here. And she's like, look, I gotta have people to test this on. So Lizzie, Josiah, who's gonna do it? You just go to sleep. You won't feel anything. It'll be fine. And then we get kind of a weirdly hijinksy scene about Claire testing ether. Did it feel that way to you too, Allison?
Well,
what the fuck?
Sort of, but I'm but this is a scene from the book, so I was prepared for it, and I feel like maybe my read on it tonally is different from yours because of the book of it all. But yeah, basically, Claire needs to give Malva, her official apprentice now, some experience testing ether because they're going to put Josiah and Kezzy under to deal with, I'm assuming it's their tonsils, right? Because she's telling you're going to go under, and that way we're not going to have to. Anyway, she needs to practice using ether so that she can, and allowing Malva to administer it so that she can focus on the surgery. Otherwise, there's no medical reason to have the ether. The point is to make it so that she can do these things that would be dangerous.
So she just decided to make Malva her anesthesiologist.
Yes, so she's teaching Malva how to administer ether.
Exactly my thoughts, Janine. See that face?
It's maybe not the best plan, but you can understand the reasoning behind it.
I can, but a colonial anesthesiologist doesn't sound like a good time
that's a
to
terrible profession.
That sounds so fucking scary. Oh, God.
There's also like a little standoff where Josiah says he's going to go first. And Malva says, oh, wow, you're very brave. And Lizzie's like, yes, brave. You're brave. Josiah, and is very territorial about Josiah and Malva, who may or may not be flirting with Josiah. So that's
I think Malva just does that. That's kind of
just her default
way of talking.
setting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They test it out. Lizzie volunteers to go first though, so she can show I'm a bad bitch. And she goes under, and Claire's all like, everybody's marveling on it, like Josiah's like, whoa, what the fuck? And Malva's like, this is cool and kind of scary. And Claire's like, hold on. And she reaches over, grabs her scalpel, picks up Lizzie's hand and cuts her finger, and Lizzie doesn't respond at all. And everyone's like, whoa.
Yeah. And Josiah wakes up and is like, or Lizzie wakes up and she's like, okay, when are you going to start?
I'm ready. And Josiah's like, I want to try.
That's funny.
So they put him over, and then Lizzie asks, where does the soul go?
Oh.
And Claire is weirdly blasé about it. Weirdly for her. Like it seemed to me, I'm curious what you think, Julie. It seemed to me like kind of an off character beat. She's like, oh, they're not dead. It's just, it stays where it is. They're asleep.
Yeah, she just goes, the soul stays with the body. It's just like they're asleep. Like she was kind of in that. Like,
yeah. When it's very, you can tell that it's different. Down to what she describes to Malva as a vibration in the flesh that you can feel before they start to wake up, which is how she's supposed to know when to administer more ether.
Yeah, because, she knows to give them more when their skin starts bumping. Like,
it's really weird.
The good old days were the worst old days.
Jesus.
But Josiah wakes up and is like, okay, I'm ready. And then they all have a good chuckle. Ha 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 ha. Ether.
So put that little feather in your hat, because I'm sure that's coming back.
I'm so worried about the potential of an opium den at the fucking ridge. Like, because Claire's still ething herself.
Yeah, we
right?
haven't seen it in a minute, but we can presume that she is occasionally still taking a wee dram of her own.
Yeah. One becomes 2 becomes 12 kind of
Yeah.
situation.
And there's also another, maybe we can just knock this one out really quick. There's another scene where Malva is asking about the book that Claire keeps and is still sort of cavalierly leaving
Just
out
leaving
all over
around.
the place, even though it is very dangerous because there are actively people around her who think she's a witch.
Jesus.
Like, as evidenced by the last episode, like very recently. So maybe not the best thing. But Malva says, oh, well, my brother thinks it's spells, and now I can tell him it's not spells. But I do find it enchanting or enthralling or whatever it is she says. So Malva is very much in med student mode with Claire.
Is someone going to get put on the stake this season? I'm nervous about that, too. I'm nervous about the opium den, and I'm nervous about another Gayless situation.
Well, Malva just seems... There's just that actress, what's her name? Please look her up. I do this every time. She's so good at walking this very strange line. It's like so
Jessica Reynolds.
Subtle and thank you, Jessica Reynolds. I think I mentioned her last time. I looked her name up when I was talking with Jen. She just rides this line that's very specific and difficult. So, but she's still giving me vibes like, no.
Yeah. She's doing a really, really good job of making it clear that there's something. I want to make sure that I'm not being spoilery. There's something wrong. Like something is not right with her and the way that she's processing the world without leaning into some weird evil young woman thing. Like it's never that. It's unsettling, but she's not playing a villain because this is a 15-year-old girl, maybe 16. She's very young and she's very curious and obviously very intelligent. And those things are things that people often find suspicious in women, which is gross and the way of the world and still true.
See, I don't want to feel those things, but this actress is doing that perfect thing where it's just pushing it right over the like.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
she's making us feel about her the way that other people feel about Claire. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's very cool. She's doing a really, really good job.
We go back to the Cherokee, and Ian has, told Jamie all this stuff. And Jamie also, I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about how deep Sam Heughan's reactions are to all this, because if you remember, he too has had a daughter miscarry. We don't find out it's a daughter, that Ian's child was a daughter until later. But so you're seeing Sam like go through all this shit, right? And obviously Ian's going through it. He comes out and he sees Kaheraton and he can't handle it. And he runs at Kaheraton and starts trying to fight him. And they get into a fight and there's a knife that comes out.
Uh-oh.
And we realize that it's Scotchy because he is just the worst. And he brought a knife with him when he wasn't supposed to, because remember the whole getting rid of all your gear?
Yeah.
And he pulls Kaheraton's hair back and basically puts the knife to his throat and starts making all these terrible, insults. He's hammered, he's drunk, and he's saying all this stupid shit about the Mohawk, and it's just bad. And how does it turn into the duel? What is that? What happens there?
What?
Hold on.
Yeah, well, Kaheraton is understandably very upset, and Scotchy essentially tries to kick him out, and Kaheraton is not having it, so then Scotchy challenges him to a duel. And everybody is like, listen, this guy's out of line, you don't have to do this. And Kaheraton's like, no, he insulted me. Of course I'm gonna do this. He insulted me, which is bad. That's bad. It's a very bad situation for everyone. And it obviously puts Ian into kind of a state. So Jamie has pulled him off of out of the fight and sort of sends him away to cool down. And then we get this scene that Julie was just setting up between the two of them, between Jamie and Ian. Beautiful.
It's so good.
This scene, it's a season highlight for me so far. It's way up there.
This scene is so great. So Ian talks about how there's two things inside him and how he can be both, and how when he left the Mohawk, he never saw his child. He never saw her. He doesn't know how she was buried, like all these things that have been going through his mind all this time.
And she wasn't baptized.
And she wasn't baptized, so he still got that, right?
Yeah.
So he's still working this dual reality. And he gave her a name. He named her in his mind Isabel.
Yeah. The Gaelic version of Isabel.
And he's talking about it, and you can just see that he's been consumed with thinking about this. And this is when Sam Heughan has his greatest, like, he's the best dad when somebody's down. He just sits down and tells Ian all about Faith, their daughter that miscarried in Paris. He tells her the whole thing. He tells Ian the whole thing. And so Ian all of a sudden understands that he and Jamie share this terrible thing. And it's, oh God, it's such a good scene. Allison, please, more words.
I'm having one of those moments where I can't tell whether a thing I'm remembering is just a book thing or if it also happened in the show, because of course now I picture the actors when I'm thinking about the book. So I think that this happened on the show. Someone will find us on Twitter and tell us either way. And also I'll just check after we're done recording. But Brianna tells Ian when he is suicidal, she tells Ian about Frank, and that Frank will look out for his dad. No, not his dad, for his whoever he was. I mean, maybe that was also his kid. I don't remember. But basically, Brianna has already said, Frank, listen, my dad is up there, and my dad will take care of the people that you grieve and the people that you miss. And here, Jamie does the same thing. And he tells him about Faith, that he also didn't get to see him, and he understands what that pain is. But now they're going to pray, and they're going to tell Faith to go look for Isabel, because God, I wish I could quote it directly, but it's something to the effect of God gives us a life, and we live our life, and at the end of it, we go home to him. And there's no guarantee on how long the first part will be. Basically saying she was born and she lived, and so now she's in this other place, and we all who are still here, we're also going to that place. It's just that we're staying for longer than she did. And it's very easy to, I think, to overplay really juicy emotional moments like that, and they both do a really good job. Neither of them. The scene was so good, really subtle. And I mean, I'm not a religious person, and I found it very moving. It's really, really, really good scene. And it obviously gets Ian's brain right. And you'd hope that he would have more time to process his feelings before having to make amends with someone who he feels betrayed him.
But no.
But no. There's no time for that, because there's about to be a duel.
Got to be a duel.
Just walks through.
Toxic masculinity, just killing time again.
Yeah.
God.
So he walks up to Heughan and gives him Jamie's pistol and says essentially there's no better weapon out there. If you're going to do this, you should have a fighting chance. You shouldn't just be with a bow and arrow. And Heughan says, why would you do this for me? And Ian is just being a mensch and thinking of not only, this is also when he that's why he flips out. He flips out because he finds out they had a son. That's why.
Of course.
So he finds out that Heughan and Emily have had a child. And he loses his
That
mind.
was what the fight was, right?
Yeah, because
yes,
I was confused. I was like, where'd that come from? But okay.
Yeah,
Because he's feeling
his uncle,
the other person,
the medicine man that was traveled with the Mohawk, told him. Sorry, we forgot that part. But so Emily had a son with Keraton,
which then Ian's feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the fight.
But also the probably the inadedequacy of feeling it was his fault.
Shame,
There's so much
grief, rage.
Shit!
So,
this is terrible. Oh my God, he is going through it.
But he's on the mend because he walks over to Keraton and gives him the gun and says you should have a fighting chance because Emily needs you and this kid needs you.
I have to mention here the difference between the Cherokee costumes and the Mohawk costumes are incredible.
Cool.
The detail invested in them, the subtle differences in how the things are worn or like the kind of structures and shapes that they make. It's so great. And Keraton in particular in this scene is wearing, as we've seen in the past, one of those coats, right? And he's tricked it out. He has a whole skunk pelt over his right shoulder, and it looks so bitchin'. I am not it looks so good.
He looks
so
great.
The costumes in this episode, and as Allison said, the accessories very heavy in this episode.
Important accessories,
so good. I just had to mention it there because this is where we see the full skunk.
Well, and it matters because the accessory comes back right now. So Keraton thanks him and then hands him a weapon that he was going to hit Scotchy with earlier. It's not a gun or a knife. It's
like a club, a carved club,
some sort of club. Okay. It's really pretty. Hands that to him and then also takes off a very familiar cuff that he's been wearing around his arm, which we see is just like the one that Ian got from Emily and gave back to her when she tells him to leave. And he asks him to hold it and says, if I die, you have to take care of them. And it is obviously very affecting for Ian, but he takes it, and in particular, because it's important to the plot, takes this sort of, cudgel, whatever this weapon that Keraton was carrying. And that's when we have our duel. This is where I'd make a Hamilton joke if either of you actually cared about Hamilton.
I love Hamilton. I watched this over this. There was a whole thing. I love
In
Hamilton.
that case, Scotchy looks at him and says, look into the sky in the fire, summon all the courage you require, and then count. But Jamie basically says, you're gonna turn, are you both really gonna go through with this, you idiots, is the subtext.
Dum-dums.
I will not yield. It's like, oh no. Fuck. Okay. So you're gonna walk 10 paces and then you're gonna turn and I will count and that's when you'll turn.
Yeah.
And in a surprise to no one, Scotchy turns around a little bit early.
Yeah.
But
guess what happens?
But Ian, because Ian Murray is a very good, he gets it from his mother. He's a very good judge of character, and he is also extremely suspicious. Both qualities that he gets from his mother. So he sees him turn and he sees him raise his gun and he throws the weapon that Keraton gave him and knocks the gun so that it misfires, which is a dangerous thing to do. He could have hit somebody else. That would have been very bad, but nobody that we know of probably just travels a very long way and breaks. One of the many windows in the big house is shattered.
Jesus.
And stops him from murdering this man, Keraton. And then Jamie says, Keraton, you can't fire at will. He's surrendered his right to have you wait. And Scotchy is begging for his life like a drunk asshole. Like, I didn't mean it. I'm a friend of the Indians. Please help me. And Keraton
shoots into the air, scares the shit out of Scotchy. So,
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a scary
Ian
moment.
Managed to mend some fences, address some trauma. It's good shit.
We forgot one very specific thing that needs to be mentioned before we leave the Cherokee area is that Jamie takes Chief Bird Sings in the Morning aside to be like, "Hi, I don't want to tell you too much, but I want to tell you that I have a wife that sees things in her dreams."
the women in my family all have the sight, basically. My wife and my daughter have both seen this thing, and I want to warn you about it. And he tells them about the Trail of Tears. And Chief Bird at the end of it is like,
why'd you tell me? What am I going to do about it?
If I can't change it, why? Like, oh no, first he says, it's a good thing you brought me these guns. And Jamie's like, no. 20,
not going to be enough.
20 muskets, not going to do a thing against 20,000. That's nope. You can't fight it. It is going to happen. You will not be able to fight back. And that's when Bird's like, well, then why did you tell me this? What's the point? I'm just going to be sad. Just going to be really sad. And Jamie says, well, no, but you can tell your sons. And maybe
is Jamie responsible for Ottertooth? Because if they're going to tell their sons all through time,
Ottertooth,
and then somebody comes back from the future, remember the Native American guy that comes back from the 60s to start and try?
Yeah,
I remember Ottertooth.
So did Jamie accidentally start that? Like, is he the one? Okay,
because Ottertooth is dead, and he learns about it in the 60s.
Right.
Like he learns about it because he sat in an American history class.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Then never mind.
Or he learned about it from his parents or from other people I don't know whether or not he lives on a reservation, but people around him. And he's part of a whole group too. Anyway, but that is an interesting. My brain kind of melted for a minute trying to figure out.
Yeah, I was like,
yeah, like did
how'd
he
that go through?
Yeah, but he says, listen, you can't fight back, but maybe your people can hide when it starts. Now you'll know if you hear this general's name. It's in roughly 60 years. You'll know, and maybe they can hide and wait it out and survive. And that's like
God,
all he
terrible.
can do. It's rough. But the costumes are beautiful.
They're so good.
Just gorgeous.
And then the final thing that we see is we go back to the ridge and fucking Lizzie's talking to Kezzy now about the ether nap. And
there's more flirting.
There's more flirting. And then Malva's in the surgery with Claire, and this is when they're talking about the grimoire.
About
her notebook. And then we see Jamie come
Rollins
home. we see Jamie come home, and Claire's like, hey, can you just keep an eye on this? And leaves her surgery with all of her shit, including that book in it, with just Malva there.
Oh no. What's it gonna
In
happen?
Claire's defense, she has no reason to think that this
You're right.
teenager who is suddenly obsessed with medicine, something she's been dying. This is Marsali erasure to pretend like Marsali wasn't also fulfilling this function. But
I know. Why wasn't she there?
But Claire clearly likes teaching and passing on her knowledge. So she's very excited about Malva's interest. And she says, Malva, can you clean up? She's basically like, can you close shop while I go,
Fuck my husband in a stable?
Because the last time, if you recall, the last time that Jamie went to the Cherokee, he came home and was like, oh my God, I gotta fuck my wife. Because of the two ladies. Two ladies.
Yeah.
So she's like, wait, he's come back from Cherokee. I think that means that I get to have a lot of sex again. Peace out. Just make sure to lock up when you're done. And she runs out to meet Jamie.
Runs to the stable.
And Jamie's like, oh, Claire, I'm really tired, but I'm not that tired. And they're getting ready to have some good old-fashioned barn sex.
And it felt a little forced for a minute because I didn't know how it was going to resolve there. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. She wants to have sex. Let's do it. Fine. And then we see them start to get down. Camera pulls back. Guess who's sneaking a little peekaloo?
Malva?
Yep.
Oh, that's
on her tippy toes, getting
peeking
all
through the window.
that dirt, watching. Oh. She likes to watch. We've already seen it one time.
Oh.
You can't tell
okay.
what her response to it is or what her intentions are. Because again, Jessica Reynolds is so good.
Nothing
she just looks interested. She's very interested.
And this is someone who, the character is like mid-teens, yeah? Like
yes, she's a teenager.
So like there's a whole bunch of like, she's trying to figure out her own self and understand what's going on and like she might not. Does she have a mother? Is her mother?
We
still
haven't.
alive?
Mother's dead.
Her mother's dead.
We've only
No,
heard
she
a couple of
tells-
things about her mother.
Yeah. She
Oh,
tells
yeah, yeah.
Ian that her mother was a witch. and that she's
Hanged
dead.
for a witch.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's well. Then the interest in knowing
That's the
more about.
End of the episode is Malva just getting a little bit further up under tippy toes to see a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a really great shot. Again,
Which is a great
The
shot.
direction is really great. We see Claire and Jamie basically fall out of the frame, and the camera just shifts just a little bit to the left, and we see her peeking in through a little tiny corner of the thing, right?
Just enough to make
then-
that super creepy.
And then
Fucking
it
hell.
cuts to her watching, and you see her
Yeah.
watching, and she's like enthralled. But it's not. I mean, it's not innocent. It's
Yeah.
not. The tone of it is. It's incredibly ambiguous, but it's not innocent. It's not like a typical coming of age experience. There's something else. And then
Yeah.
you see her feet, and you see her go further up on her tiptoes, which is just a great way of being like, no, she's really interested. And
Yeah.
she's just like really. She wants to see all the angles. You know what I mean? It's
Fascinating. Interesting.
It's a great
Oh,
little. The progression is so smart. The filmmaking is really, really smart.
Good job.
So that's what I thought was going to get no shit from you. Is Malva's watching them?
I thought I thought that might have been the moment. I'm so intrigued. I don't know how to give a no shit to that because I'm so intrigued by what that fucking means for her. Like 'cause,
She's
like,
doing so good because we're all like, what the fuck is up with her?
Yeah, well, it's
Come
just
on.
I'll tell you
what's
what.
happening. You know.
I was really worried, and maybe this is a good. I don't want to overstay my welcome here, but this is maybe a good point to talk about some of my concerns with the Emily storyline. But I was very worried about Malva coming into this season because the show has not always demonstrated the best track record of allowing the characters that are complicated in Diana Gabaldon's novels to be as complicated as they are, that complicated on screen, right? Like,
Yeah.
And some of that's just the nature of adapting these massive novels for television. Some things just have to go. But with a character like Malva, it would be so easy for her to be like, oh, hi, look at me. I'm 16 years old and I really like medicine, Mrs. Fraser, but also I like men, right? And it's not that. They're doing a really good job of avoiding that. And a lot of that is due to this young actress being so interesting to watch.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is that it's all the more reason to be frustrated with the way that they tell this Emily story because, and they make a point of saying this in the episode, the women choose, right? The women choose who they want to be with and they choose when it's over. Which means in the book, we only get Ian's perspective because we're hearing him tell it, right? Like we're hearing things from his perspective. But here, because even though it's all still from his perspective, we see these people and we get to know them more. So Emily, we could see all kinds of, we could see how hard it is for her to make that decision. We could understand why it is that she chooses what she chooses, why she chooses Ian, why she chooses to have him leave, why she chooses Kaharaton. And instead, they try to make it a love triangle. And I don't think that's what it is. It's not a love triangle. It's about what this woman wants for herself. And she can love Ian and also want a child. And there's a cultural gap. There's the issue with for all of his being taken in by the Mohawk, their experiences are very different. It's not a seamless fit, as we see in the scene where he sings for them. Like, it's not like all of a sudden he becomes a Mohawk, all your white blood is washed away, and now everything is hunky-dory. It's not that. So there are already a lot of potential issues for them to run into. And then it's clear that she desperately wants a family. She desperately wants to have children. And she believes that if you're not successfully carrying a child to term, it's because the spirit isn't strong enough. And it's not that Ian's spirit is weak. It's that it's not a Mohawk spirit, is what she believes. So she makes these choices. And the fact that the show understands enough to realize that it should say the women choose, something we've already been introduced to in the Man in a Bear Suit episode, because they make a point of talking about that, right? Like women choose who they get to be with. Rapists are not allowed. They're immediately cast out. We already understand this about the culture. So there was this incredibly rich opportunity to actually improve on the books by letting us understand Emily's choices and by giving her more agency instead of saying she has agency and then making it about whether or not Kaharitan stole Ian's wife. It's just, it's a real missed opportunity. I think it's also the flashback is really, all the flashback stuff is really good and all the stuff in the present is really good, but the way that they were stitched together didn't totally work for me. It didn't feel
right. It didn't mesh.
Yeah. Like it didn't.
It was still a good episode, but not like a. Yes. I'm not going to remember this one as much. I'm going to remember what happened to Ian, and then that's it.
Yes, and you're going to remember Malva creeping.
Yeah, I'm always thinking about Malva creeping. Yo, every minute.
Yeah.
Wow, so this is a ride.
Yeah, it's all of the individual pieces, with the exception of this massive bone that I have to pick with the Emily story. All of the individual pieces are good. All of the acting is good. Like multiple possible Platinum Pamplemousses here. Like really a lot of really, really good acting. But it just sort of didn't. There's just something like Malva Christie. Something's just off.
Something's off, baby.
I get
but
that.
It's a fine episode. It's not. It's good. It's just nowhere near as good as it could have been, given how strong the individual elements are.
Yeah. All right, do we want to call time here and let him drop off before we do scales and shit?
Yeah, I should go because I gotta clean my apartment before someone's coming by to check the apartment out, so I gotta clean it up.
Okay. Well, we'll just do the scales on our own, Janine. Just pop out.
Okay. So scales, go. What do we got?
Let's start with the doing it scale. So we've got the we and doing it.
That scene with Ian and Emily is hot as hell.
Yeah, and we get double almost canoodling between Claire and Jamie.
And watching.
Oh, the watching. Okay, so what's hot and unsettling?
Fucking Chris Cooper in adaptation.
But that's, I mean, you're right, but that's just, he's hot. But Malva, I know, but it's,
okay,
but
so you need it to be more of a negative.
Okay. So you're saying it's not like Chris Cooper, like no one in the story is like Chris Cooper in adaptation. The story itself is Chris Cooper in adaptation.
Yes.
Hot, but unsettling. Great.
Well, the Malva part. Yeah.
The Malva part is just unsettling.
And then the hot part is Emily and Ian on their first time doing it night.
Yes. Which is really,
it was just a beautifully really done
hot.
sex scene.
So simple, really simple.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, it's just two people who very emotionally connected, enjoying themselves a lot.
And the sex acting was extra good because sometimes sex scenes.
I know. Yeah. Well, because there's this insistence on sort of paying into the illusion that everybody comes in unison in all kinds of storytelling. But here, I 100% believed it. I believed that, like, that this interaction they were having, they were both focused on each other. So, of course, they were both having an incredibly satisfying sexual experience because they were experiencing it fully themselves, but were laser focused on each other. Which is something obviously that is often true of the Claire and Jamie sex scenes as well. But it does feel unique to me. Have we gotten a sex scene like this? Like a positive sex scene from characters who aren't either Claire or Jamie? Because like we obviously get Claire and Frank.
It was kind of played for laughs, but they were having a good time.
And Murta and Jocasta. But how could I forget the bite? Amelia's really pissed at me, but it's a rarity in Outlander. You know, like, and what am I thinking? Roger and Brianna. Although, again, Brianna most of the time, maybe not. They're working on it, folks. They're working on it. Okay, so that is sex. What about costumery? Costumes.
We simply must talk to somebody who knows more about these traditions because they're so fascinating. The specifically to me, I'm interested in the repurposing, the obvious repurposing, but then the incredible accessorizing, just anything, how they reuse everything and make a cohesive look out of all these different elements. It's so beautiful, and I want to know more.
I thought a lot about, I won't say too much because I don't want to spoil it for you, Julie, because I know you haven't watched yet, but the opening scene with Ian reminded me a lot of a very wonderful scene in season 2 of Bridgerton, which once you've seen it, we'll discuss, because it's really nice to see the show and see both those shows honoring this other culture and honoring these rituals as being solemn without exoticizing them, right?
Yes.
Like, it wasn't like, look how weird. It wasn't that at all. It was obvious that everyone there, Ian included, was having a profound experience, and it was a very solemn occasion. Really cool. Really, really cool.
I just want to learn more about it. I don't even know how I would scale it, because to me, once again, and we've said this for every episode this season, the generalized white people costumes are fine, but they're nothing. They're nothing compared to the First Nations costumes. They are like, I did notice one thing this time: Claire's purple vest that she was wearing at the end when she was in the stable. That's really it. Like, the rest of it, I'm all like, Kaheraton skunk pelt for life. Like,
well, and Ian's costumes are always fascinating,
always
now because of that dichotomy.
And the 2-part thing that he's living,
there are 2 wolves
really
living inside him. It's a very good time for that meme to be having the moment that it's having, because Ian literally does. It's 2 wolves.
That's 2 wolves.
There are 2 wolves inside of me. One is a wolf. The other one is also
and the other
a wolf.
is another wolf.
Yeah. Yeah, and then getting up to I could easily have gotten up to get a drink.
Oh yeah, this one,
the fragmented nature of it. Yeah,
it took. I jumped out and went back into the story several times, so I don't think that would have been an issue.
And then, who's your MVP? Who's your Platinum Pamplemousse?
Man, I gotta say Ian. I gotta say John Bell.
John Bell. Same.
Sam Heughan turned in a really great performance. The actor who plays Kaheraton was very good, but John Bell, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he holds the whole
It's his episode.
Down.
Yeah, it's his episode.
Yeah. He's really, really good in it. Good for him. And also good for us for recording this episode. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/podlandercast. You can find us on Twitter at podlandercast. You can find us on Instagram at podlandercast and Podlander Presents and Sickburn Jane. You can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/podlanderdrunkcast, where you can support the show, which we could not do without the support of our patrons. You can get access to the Slack, to bonus episodes. We are behind on What Nows. We're gonna get you some sweet What Now episodes soon. We were discussing. We almost recorded one in the car, but then we worried that it was going to.
It would have sounded terrible, though, y'all. We couldn't do it.
Yeah. Anyway, you can get all of those things at patreon.com/podlanderdrunkcast. We want to thank all of our patrons, but especially the following wonderful people: Kelly Armstrong, Sydney Taylor, BG, Jess Bree, Catspaw156, Maddie Perkins, Snazzy Knack, Lisa Brienne, Julia Gulia, Kathleen Martini, Lauren Tennant, Kelsey Kemp, Emily Day, Betsy English, Caitlin Reddick, Jen Collins, Ashley Tegason, Nicole Rodriguez, Kristen Freckled Fury, Laura Colm, Amelia Bazell, Liz Ann Tinkerbell, Stella Welch, Tori Helgen, Claire Feeney, Rochelle Lefevre, Heather Robbins, Jerry Hurdle, Emily Carlson, Amy Gisters, Rachel Townsend, Kelly Mazzella, Chantel Soldiers, Mary the Falling Statue, shout out Mary, Tara Lucchino, Viv Pickles, aka Laura, Mary of the Grapefruit, Jenna Bukowski, Ann Gibson, Ruth McCormick, Kara Marlowe, Trish McCrary, Julie DeToy, Jen Lynn, Connie Jen Lynn, Kelly Bawden, Amanda Newton, and Kiki the Wise.
The Wise.
I also want to give a special shout out to Courtney, who met us in Nashville. Courtney, it was so nice to meet you.
It was so awesome.
It was really great. If you happen to find yourselves at a drag show that Julie and I are also attending, always meet us. Please tell us. We want to meet you. If you're going to see Ginger Minge and La Cage aux Folles in Chicago, we're going too. Let us know. We would love to say hi. So, Courtney, thank you again for taking the time to come say hello and for listening and all of those things. And thanks to all of you for being here for this John Bell fan club meeting.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Way to go. Yeah. Johnny B. The skies are full of diamonds. Doctor Who, shout out. Bye.